Hello and welcome. I am Dr. Anil Joshi. Welcome you to my series Iconology and Temple Architecture Perspectives. Not only in this series we see about the temples and architecture, but how it has developed, how it has come to a stage where we are observing will depend on what was the background of that from the history. So we have to trace it back almost to 500 or 800 years, then only we'll know what is the glory of that architect, and we can appreciate it by real meaning. That is the main reason why we should know historical aspect. And there is one more beautiful aspect or appreciable aspect or aspect of which we are proud of. That lot of dynasty has changed in South India from one to another. But even when one dynasty defeated another and taken over the governance of that area, the temple architecture was either improved, or what they have done is they have added into it. They have completed the incomplete structure, and that is something which we are proud of. So let's get going to the historical aspect, which will give us a correct idea how the temple architecture has developed. Now, today's topic is Hampi. Hampi is situated on the banks of Tungabhadra river in the eastern part of the central Karnataka, near the state border with Andhra Pradesh. Now, it is 376 kilometers from Bengaluru and 165 kilometers from Hubli. The closest railway station is in Hospet, 13 kilometers, and the closest airport is 32 kilometers, that is the Jindal Vijayanagar airport, which connects it to the Bangalore or otherwise to most of the cities or abroad. Overnight buses are there along with the trains also to Hampi from Goa or from Bengaluru. Nowadays, in the era of the Google, there is not much difficulty in finding all these things. Straight we can go to the Google and find out the convenience. It is very near to Badami and Aihoi, Pattadkal. So if you are planning a trip, keep some spare days for these also. And the history of these all is interlinked. So that is why we should know all these things and study them. Now this includes state UNESCO list. It is included in the not only in the ASI but also in the World Heritage UNESCO. The forts, riverside features, royal and sacred complexes, temples, shrines, then pillared halls, then mandapas fall. It is the place where people sit, relax, and memorable structures like gateways, then there are stables, then water structures, and all these things add into the beauty, but few of them are recognized by ASI, few of them are recognized by UNESCO, and most of them are recognized by all of us touristers. So we must visit them and appreciate the beauty and be proud of our history. Now there are Hindu temples as well as Jain temples also. All these things, all these slides, they include Hindu and Jain monuments next to each other. The building predominantly followed the South Indian Hindu art and architecture dating to the Aihoi Pattadakal style. Because after all, though it is Vijayanagara, Hampi, the style of Chalukya has flown. The Hampi builder also used elements of Indian architecture in the Lotus Mahal. So Hampi is a place you will know all sort of architectures are mixed, whether it is Chalukyan, whether it is the Indo-Islamic, or whether it is their own original styles. You will find them, they all are involved in the Hampi, and that's why Hampi became one of the most popular tourist spot, not only for the Indians but also for the foreigners. And once you start seeing these monuments, you will start appreciating what is the importance of history in that. Now, Hampi traditionally was known as Pampa Kshetra. Kshetra is an area, Pampa was the name given to it, and Pampa Kshetra became Pampa Kshetra, then Bhaskara Kshetra are the name given to same areas, and the place is named after goddess Parvati, who had a lot of importance in the Hindu mythology. Now, according to mythology, the maiden Parvati, who is reincarnation of Shiva's previous wife Sati, resolves to marry Shiva. In second birth also she want to marry Shiva. Her parents learned, or they told her, they made her realize, and they tried to discourage, explaining her about Shiva. But instead of getting repelled, she was attracted towards Shiva's yogic meditations. Then Parvati appeared to gods. She surrendered to the gods. She prayed God to awake Shiva from his deep meditation, or that is yoga meditation. Then the throne was taken by Indra. Then Indra has taken the another form of a Kamadeva, that is another Hindu god for erotic love, attraction and affection, to awake Shiva. But instead of awaking him, what happened was she became the victim of Kamadeva, became victim of Shiva's anger, and he was burnt alive by Shiva when he did not like what he was doing, and when he was awakened from the meditation. So Kamadeva was burnt alive by Shiva. He had that power in his third eye to kill or burn anybody. Now Parvati does not lose her hope, or she again started praying for Shiva. Then she resolved in her own mind a desire that she will win and she will marry Shiva, and she started again worshipping him. Now, because of this yoga, tapasarya and awakening process of the Shiva, his interest, Shiva ultimately was happy. Ma Parvati met him, and their marriage has taken place in these areas. So she was mainly responsible for awakening Shiva due to her devotion and due to her praise, and because of that she could marry Shiva. And in the process, so many people try to tell her that she should not marry. They told her what type of personality Shiva had, but from all that thing, she was undisturbed. She was undeviated from her deep desire to win Shiva, and ultimately they got married, and that is supposed to be in this place. That is it. That is the reason why the place is called, or Shiva is called, place is called Pampa, and the Shiva god is called as Pampa Pati. Pati is a husband, so husband of Pampa becomes Pampapati. So that was name given to the Shiva. So if we start tracing history of Hampi, you will realize that we can trace it for millions of years back. It is in the myths. Then the river near the Hemukuta hill came to known as Pampa river. Now once the name main comes to the place, then the surrounding like rivers, then mountains, all that thing, then Sarovars, small water reservoir, take the name by its neighboring big name. Then in Sanskrit word Pampa morphology into the Kannada word Hampi, and the place where Parvati prayed, when Parvati pursued Shiva, came to known as the Hampi or Hampi. That is the same name which changed its slight abbreviations. The site was an early medieval era pilgrimage place known as Pampa, is a Pampa Kshetra, and even as on today people go there, they worship, they offer their prayer. It is also in the frame of Ramayana. Now we are coming from epics to the Ramayanas. Now Ramayana, the name came from The name Kishkinda can be traced back to Ramayanas, and Kishkinda chapter of the Hindu epic Ramayana is extremely well known because major events of the Ramayana has taken at this place. So in history, when we are discussing right from the epics, right from the incidents of epics, it is very, very important, and all these traces you can get right in the city. Now this is the place where Rama and Lakshmana, they met Hanumana, Sugriva, and they planned with the help of monkey army how to attack Ravana, who had kidnapped Ma Sita. So they have planned here, then they have found out where Ma Sita is, and they went there with the army of monkeys, and they defeated Ravana. The Hampi area has many close resemblance to the places described in these epics. The region traditionally believes that it is the place of meditation or place mentioned in the Ramayanas. So meditation for Parvati, places of meeting for Ramayana is with the Hanumana and Sugriva to form a Vanar Sena. Then Shabari chapter has also taken place here. We have different videos on all these different topics. They are extensive topics, but very interestingly covered, and I'm sure you'll love them to hear. So interesting, good, and something to be known of. Now ancient to 14th century, we are coming out. First was the epics, then was the Ramayana, and now we are coming to slightly earlier to 14th century. The Emperor Ashoka's rock edict in Bellary district 269 to 32 BC suggests that here we are depending now on inscriptions. Now first one what we found was by the Samrat Ashokas in the year 269 to 232, who suggested that this region was a part of Mayura Empire during the 3rd century. So from where we got this information is from inscription at of the time of Ashoka, Samrat Ashoka. The Brahmi inscription and a terracotta seal dating to about the 2nd century CE have been found, which is base for all our discussions and all this topic of the today. Now the town mentioned in Badami Chalukya's inscription as Pampapura, dating to between the 6th and the 8th century. So here we are getting all the traces and all the way how a Pampa name of the Parvati become Hampi, that is all today. Now by the 10th century, it had become a center of religion and educational activities. During the rules of the Hindu king Chalukyas, which Chalukyas? Kalyani Chalukyas, whose inscriptions state that the king made land grand and he constructed the Virupaksha temple here. The several inscriptions from the 11th to 13th centuries are about the Hampi state with a mention of the gifts to the goddess Hampa Devi. Between the 12th and 14th centuries, Hindu king of the Hoysala Empire of the South India built a temple to Durga, that is Durga Mata temple, then Hampa Devi and Shiva, according to the inscription dated 1199. We are giving you certain proofs, certain details of the inscriptions, how the history of the Hampi progressed. Now we are towards 12th century now. Hampi became a second royal residence of the Hoysala king and was known as the Hampeya or Dea, that is the Lord of Hampi. So all these names were given from the gods. Now here we are seeing a map in which they clearly mention about Vijayanagara Empire and so also their neighboring empires. Now we are in history up to 14th century. Now let's go ahead of 14th century. After 14th century, what happened? The armies of Delhi Sultanate, particularly of the Alauddin Khilji and Muhammad bin Tughlaq invaded the area and they conquered it. The Hoysala Empire and its capital Dwara Samudra. Now we have made videos on Dwara Samudra, that is Ballur, Hayabiddu, its temples, so also of the Hoysala Empire. Now that is in the southern Karnataka, and that was plundered and destroyed in the early 14th century by the armies of Alauddin Khilji, and again in 1326 by armies of Muhammad bin Tughlaq. So they destroyed it. But the best part of that was, once they turned back, within a couple of years, again the glory was restored, and that credit goes to our all Hindu kings. The Hampi kingdom in north central Karnataka followed the collapse of the Hoysala Empire. It was a short-lived Hindu kingdom with a capital about 33 kilometers from the Hampi. The Kampil kingdom ended after an invasion by the Muslim army, that is Muhammad bin Tughlaq. And now what happened after that? The Hindu woman of the Kampili committed Jauhar. So what is the Jauhar? You know it, that they, once the women's, the queen, come to know that they are going to lose the war, all the male, they take the sword in hand and go to the war, and all the females, they enter the fire. That is the ritual called Sati, was more common in Rajasthan, but also it is mentioned that it was done here. The soldier faced defeat by Tughlaq's army because they were knowing it that soldiers are going to get defeated. That's why all the women, they get themselves burnt, they enter the fire. And in 1336, the Vijayanagara Empire arose from a ruin of the Kampili kingdom. So what happened was, as I told you, there were Muslim invaders, but as soon as they turned back, again the Hindu turned back, and they put that to the original glory. May not be equivalent, but almost near to it. And then the Hindu rules, or Hindu king ruled it for more than 200 years. So it's pretty long time after that. Only two invaders, they could defeat them, and couple of years they could maintain this. But as it is, it was difficult to rule it over right from the Delhi, or to some extent we can say from the Daulatabad or Devgari. It was really difficult to control this area. The Vijayanagara Empire was built at its capital around the Hampi, calling it Vijayanagara. Many historians propose that the Harihara Rai and Bukkaraya, the founders of the empire, were commanders of the army of the Hoysala Empire, stationed in the Tungabhadra region to ward off the Muslim, to take care or to stop the Muslim invasions from the northern India. Some claim that they were the Telugu people who took control of the northern parts of the Hoysala Empire during the decline. As per some of the texts, such as Vidyaranya, so Vidyaranya, Kalajana, and Vidyaranya Vrittantika. Vrittantika is the narration of the news or the whatever is happening. Then Rajakalyani Naraya are the inscriptions. All you will find here, so many are there, and on that we can come to know that how the kingdom was flourished and how it was again rebuilt from the Muslim invasion. Now they were treasury of the officers of Prataprudra, the king of Kakatiya kingdom. So that is another historical aspect about them. When Muhammad bin Tughlaq came looking for a Bahauddin Gurshab, who was taking refuge in the court of the Prataprudra, Prataprudra was overthrown and Kakatiyas was destroyed. So again, Muslim invasion which had destroyed it. During this time, the two brothers, Harihara Rai and Bukka Rai, with a small army, came to the present site of Vijayanagara, Hampi, that is Vijayanagara, in the 12th century. That was also called as Vidyaranya. Vidyaranya is another name for the Hampi. Now in 12th century, Jagat Guru of Sringeri Sharda Peetham took them under his protection and established them on the throne, and the city was then called as Vijayanagara in the year 1336. Now we have come almost to 14th century. We started our history from epics of the Hampi, and now we are coming to 14th century. They expanded the infrastructure, constructed the temple, and by 1500, Hampi Vijayanagara was the world's second largest medieval era city after Beijing, and probably India's richest. It is compared with Rome, Beijing, so it was the largest. And we have got videos of the market of Hampi, market of Vijayanagara, which will tell you that the pearls, diamonds were sold like a grain on the market. Really interesting videos are made on the Hampi markets. Really interesting videos are made how it became a trading center, and really how it took over the trade of the world at that time. How they had markets, how they had troubleshootings, how they had judiciaries, all are very, very interesting. That's why people come from long distance. They were bringing along with them not only weapons, cannons, but also they were bringing along with them some culture from that side, which was adapted in the construction of the certain buildings here. Now, whether it's the Indo-Persian or Indo-Islamic, that architecture was mixed here. So in short, that was a glorious period of Hampi. You can see the market. It has 800 stalls for the horses, which were coming from horses was a main important structure or interest. They want horses from outside. The reason is the quality of horses they were getting from outside were of very good quality for the wars. They had their own center where they had lot of war elephants trained. So they had a big army of war elephants. Then they also were hosting, or they were guests of them right from the Portuguese, right from the Arabia or from abroad. Now it was also a part of Silk Route, which was tracing right up to the Beijing. Now Vijayanagara ruled, it developed the infrastructure and pursuits of the art, maintained a strong military. Otherwise, unless you are strong, you cannot develop. Unless the merchants are getting protections, they will not come from abroad from so long distance. So that was the name, or that was the glory of Vijayanagara Empire or Hampi. Great were the kings who restored, and not only restored, but give reassurances to the visitors. Hampi was a prosperous, wealthy and grand city near the Tungabhadra river with the numerous temples, then farms, trading markets. Now we are in the 15th century, 1500th century. Then Hampi Vijayanagara was the world's second largest city. That's what we were discussing. Why? Because so many people were coming from so many distances. They were doing trading of so many things. So they were getting good horses. They were getting many weapons, cannons from them. Then according to historical memories left by the Portuguese and the Persian traders to the Hampi, the city was a metropolitan proportions. They call it as the one of the most beautiful cities. The patience and the infrastructure of Muslim, Hindu, then different type of architecture, Indo-Islamic, Indo-Portuguese, were all there, and there were a couple of days the area was under the Muslim sultanates. In spite of that, they were again regained in 1565. Then what happened? all the Muslim sultanates, they gathered together to defeat Vijayanagara Empire. And in 1565, at a place called Talikota, there was a big war, and Vijayanagara lost to coalition of these empires. Now all the Muslim sultanates together form a coalite, and the coalition has defeated Vijayanagara Empire. Then there is no need to tell what happened then. Then the city was destroyed, all the preciousness was looted, and the king that time was the Aliya Ramaraya, who was caught by the Muslims, and he was killed. So that how there came the end of the Vijayanagara Empire. The city was pillaged, looted and burnt, and it was going on for 6 months. The abandoned ruins, which are now in a group of monuments. Now what is left to us, though it was burnt, it was destroyed, but whatever was left alone is adequate for us to understand what was glory at that time. Looking at the remains, we can make out what must have been glorious, because whatever was wooden is destroyed, but whatever was of the stone is not destroyed. Wood was burnt, but the stone structure is just damaged, defaced. Then Hampi and other nearby region remained a contested and fought over region claimed by the local chiefs, the Hyderabad Muslims and Nizams. The Maratha Hindu kings also had the city under them for a couple of years. Then Hyder Ali and his son Tipu Sultan of the Mysore were ruling this till 18th century. Now in 1899, Tipu Sultan was defeated by British and he was killed. The alliance against Tipu Sultan was of the British with Wadiyar dynasty, that is of Mysore. They together defeated Tipu Sultan. They killed him, and the area became under the influence of British Empire. The ruins of the Hampi were surveyed in 1800 by the Scottish Colonel Colin Mackenzie. He was the first surveyor general of the India, and he started restoring it. Now there are a lot of pictures available across the net which was taken by him. They are not allowed for the private publications, but you can have a look at it, that how it was and how it is today. The restoration is greatly by ASI, and thanks to the surveyor who found it and put it to the at least a structure which can give us an idea how it was. Now Hampi site remained ignored till mid-19th century, when Alexander Greenlaw visited and photographed this area in 1856. He created an archive of 60 collotype photographs of the temple and royal structure that were standing in 1856. These photographs were held in a private collection in the United Kingdom and were not published under 1980. They were the most valuable source of mid-19th century state of Hampi to us, and later on they made it public. Today also it is available, but not for the public domain. With that, we are coming to end of this history of the Hampi, which started from the epics of Purana and ended with British taking it over and then handing it over to Republic of India. So we are proud to have all these things well retained for us. We can get the ideas how glorious it was. With that, we are coming to the end of this lecture. I am thankful for giving me your valuable time. Thank you, goodbye, and see you again in next video.